name is Ebenezer Sarfo, and welcome to my YouTube channel and the Eureka Business Intelligence channel. I have with me here, if you watched our last video with him, Gustaw Dudek, he's been teaching us so much from what goes into designing reports, from themes, from colors, from contracts, from how he uses PowerPoint, from where he gets his inspiration and who he's learned from. He's been teaching us so much, and today we are continuing because it was just so much loaded. So Gustaw, welcome once again.
Hi, Ebenezer.
All right. So he was taking us through the call center analysis he was doing. If you've not watched it, watch the previous video and you really understand what he's been teaching us. So what do you have for us today? You can continue from where you left off the last time.
So we actually were talking about custom theme and colors palette, taking into consideration the fact that I'm currently working on the call center analysis for DNA Enterprise. So it was an example to showcase some thought process and some practical elements of the report designs. And as we discussed in general, this particular report, I would like to show you more reports that I produced in the couple last months. So maybe I start with the challenge 14 for the DNA Enterprise. It was a emergency services analysis.
Wow.
So starting from the homepage, it is actually the homepage that gives you the first impression of what you are looking for and gives you the first impression that the topic that is covered in this particular report must be related with somehow with the medical database, with medical procedures, and with the emergency services analytics. And on the first page, you can see usually some navigation elements with, of course, the PowerPoint template aggregated into the PowerBI. Then some elements are highlighted to make some more attractive first impressions. And of course, what is added to this report is the homepage. Some effects when you hover over and when you're clicking. It's a super cool feature in Power BI because you can give Power BI user the feeling that you can just navigate to another pages. So going to the summary, for example, you have of course dark layouts because I decided to make that particular challenge in darkish colors. And I would like to mention that it's super cool with dark backgrounds that you can only use somehow black lines to make distinguish from one object from another. For example, if you have some visualizations like these column charts or this matrix or this bar chart, you can just add some lines which are a little bit darker when the background from these particular visualizations, you make this visible structure of the reports. Super important, super cool, because when end user just exploring this report, just see exactly what do you like to present and to showcase. And you can see that you have some titles at the top of the report, some basic navigations, which gives you little information about what that particular page is about. When you hover over, you can see the title of particular pages. You have the section.
Gustaw, why did you decide to use a change of text when it's hovered rather than just probably change of color?
That's a good question. I think there is no particular idea behind it. I just potentially decided just to make some words like page 1, page 2, page 3, and to make additional informations for the end user. I just added these informations here. Probably if I would do this particular report again, I would just make it stand out a little bit more by putting phrase here. But that was intentional at that moment.
I get you. Correct.
So here we have the KPI sections, additional buttons, which gives you the access to the homepage. You can always back to the homepage if you want. And the very important thing and very typical and well-known in the present days, like the button with clear filter. It's very cool because if you have many categories, many filters, slicers, and date selections, sometimes end user just want to very easily put the very default view of the report. So you can just click clear filters and always back to the default.
Go back to the page 1. You did something quite remarkable with the matrix. How did you do that?
It's actually the DAX. DAX is responsible in 99% for this matrix. But to be honest, when I started to thinking about this report, I just tried to make some not quite obvious. And that's why I decided to use matrix to visualize some sections, some wide ranges of times using matrix to be a little bit more stand out in terms of visualizations they used. So
it's part of the DAX that gives you the final, it only shows the last box or the last cell.
Yeah.
Showcase, okay. It's all part of the DAX?
Of course, yes. Yes, it is. It's basically check if the value in the specific scenario is around the numbers which is in the matrix. So if yes, it gives you the number and gives you the control for the color of this particular shape. And if it's not in the specific range of times, it stays, for example, in the same color as previous. So it's only DAX here.
Wow. So it shows the ranges, or it's just one color for each?
Here's this issue is addressing in that way that each particular time range has different colors, and it's related with the colors that I use on the bar charts to have some
correlation.
Adequate correlation, yeah. So it's just a color distinction from different ranges.
All right. Is it the same for the second chart on the right, the first chart on your right after the card visuals? The upper right.
You are talking about
yes.
Time between specific medical actions.
Okay. So they are compounded till the last. So this is like a stacked column chart. Is that one a stacked column chart?
Could you say it again, Ebenezer?
Is it a stacked column chart or stacked bar chart?
Oh, yeah, that's the stacked bar charts.
Okay.
Which gives you the average times between medical actions and give you the average total.
All right.
I will just have to think about it for a little while to answer the question if it's not corresponded in terms of color with other visualizations. Maybe I have some ideas, but I will have to think about it for a second.
All right.
Other than here.
I get you. So what are the hover clicks? You said you always look at, if I hover my mouse over, I should get something different. Can we see that here?
Here, for example, you can see that actions by hovering over the buttons with homepage or filters, the navigations. And pretty much that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's more like a summary page, so there are no fancy cool tricks.
Agreed.
Do you have any particular questions about another pages page?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
It's okay for the home page.
Here are some additional functionalities, like the simple button which gives you the possibility to change time frame, time perspective from monthly, meaning period, per period information, or year to date.
Avi Singh and Zebra BI teaches that a lot.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty simple to implement and very effective.
But this is the first time I'm seeing it being used with two different charts.
Pardon?
I said this is the first time I'm seeing it being used in two different charts.
What do you mean, Ebenezer, by saying two different charts?
Two different visuals. One is a line and the other is a column chart.
Of course. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Yeah, another trick just to make informations a little bit stand out, because at the moment I building this report, I just think that making visualizing some trends would be more efficient on line charts, whereas the year-to-date informations would be better if we use just column charts. So I make the trick to make the switch between the monthly year-to-date expression, and it actually simultaneously change the way it should be on stack or line chart presented. And it's probably just a combi chart that is a line and columns. And in the moment you just have selected monthly, you just see the line and you don't see the column. And reversely, if you just pick the year-to-date selection, you just have blank values for the line and you hovering the column.
I get you. That's beautiful. I see a tooltip.
Yeah, that's right. Another cool feature in Power BI that gives you a lot of cool functionalities and possibilities, because what's probably the most important, you can spare a very big amount of real estate on your reports by implementing such tooltips. If you hover over specific points, data points, you can see additional information on tooltips, which is cool.
Very cool.
And I would also like to say that tooltips are great, but I also see that it could be misused, because if you, for example, make tooltips on every single chart that you have on a report page, and there goes also these things like the storytelling, and for example, you have the report that you are presenting to the end user, to the client, like just showcase specific KPIs or single information on the report page, and everything pops out and everywhere are tooltips, which makes the impression that you can't see anything. So that's the reason that it should be used in very specific scenarios, and it not necessarily should be very big in terms of resolution on width and length of the particular tooltips. It should be more like a small tooltips in very specific context.
I get you.
Another cool things here on this particular pages is showing couple informations on one exemplary line charts, or showing different metrics. And it works in that way that you can show only averages. You can see only moving average, and you can see both. And the average is also dynamic, so you can just the size.
Change the moving.
Yeah, which makes the trends looks a little bit different.
Very useful. But you have a static one for 14-day moving average on the left.
Why static? Because implementing so many buttons on every report makes a little bit too much noise. So I decided to make an analytical section of this particular report page here, but here is just the first glance inside and there is no dynamic. It could be, of course, but in this particular case, I decided to just not put another buttons and interactions between those visualizations.
Okay. Cool.
We got page 3, which contain a lot of different aspects, analysis, etc.
Wow, what chart are you using on the right?
It was a typical scatter chart or bubble chart.
Wow, and you've done a lot of formatting like that?
That's right. And it's partially determined by the database itself, because on this particular challenge and in this particular information database, the specific metrics was very similar in structure within many categories. So here's why I use many conditional formatting to just highlight specific, even small deviations and variations. Because if we just use a typical bar here as a conditional formatting, we end up with having a flat bars, and it wouldn't be so visually appealing and attractive as it is in that
same
notifications. I'm not saying it's the best way to visualize, because if it would be the reports for the client, I would use the bars, because even if they are flat and same length, it always gives you some information and feedback about your data, and it is not a mistake. But it should be more attractive in this particular scenario, so I decided to use colors, background colors. Here are another cool things, which is the changing colors for the markers. It's a small thing, actually. It's not fine.
Is that small multiples?
Could you say it again, please, Ebenezer?
What visual is that? That is small multiple?
Yeah, I'm talking about the visualization, about the small multiples on the right side.
All right.
The cool feature is that if you have some particular periods under the averages, which could be the good way, the good information, they stay green. And if they are above averages, meaning that the times was too long, it's dynamically formatted to be red in that case. And even if it's not in the real life often used, I would say that, by the way, that small multiples are an awesome way to visualize some data.
Very.
I really recommend this particular visualization. And we have the page 4, which is quite interesting from my perspective, because it's something like the journal of specific records. And it gives you the possibility to just analyze, if you want, of course, the specific piece of information about your database. And what's more, you have that drill through, which I recommend also, drill through options that you can, for example, from specific page, you can just right click or hover over, depending on your options, you can just go drill through in that particular scenario to the call register. And it's not seen at the first glance, but these informations are exclusively
very useful
to the data that you come from. And there is
but like you said, the challenge with drill through is that if it's not an experienced user, they may never know how to use it.
That's right. And that's a little bit problem because it's super cool feature and it's so hidden that not always end users are aware that it even exists. So here are also the component of the good end training for end users, and to make our clients or end users more conscious that they have some possibilities just to use some things like drill through. You can also have the back button, which gives you the possibility to back to the page that you came from. So it's just a matter of one click and you'll end up on the same page. In real-life scenarios, drill through is much more effective comparing to this particular emergency services report. But as we discussed this particular report, I only mentioned that here is such feature. I think that it's all about emergency unless you have another questions. Because we have the Formula One analysis, for example, which have some cool features too.
Yeah, I think it's okay for now. We can go to the Formula One.
So now we have the Formula One analysis from the 15th installment of DNA Enterprise Challenges. And here is the home page where you can see the very general informations, which are not even as much important. Here is the most important element of this report is actually the homepage itself. The page that gives you the possibility to navigate, to open the report. Strictly the user experience and user navigations. So
I must say I used this inspiration in a report I built about some months ago. I'll share with you after we're done. Like I used this inspiration to actually build a dashboard for a competition. It was a national competition, and I just wanted to add up to the buzz. So I built a dashboard trying to see the previous winners using this theme. Like,
really happy to hear that you find it interesting. Very glad to hear. All right, so if we can press this button, we can activate the main sector of the reports. And the cool feature here applied is that the home page image is go to the background. And here is the important thing. There was a requirement from the DNA Enterprise that this particular challenge has to be one pager. Of course, it seems like not be one pager because I put here 6 more or less pages. But on the other side, if you open the PBX file with the Formula One, you would see only one page because the whole mechanism standing behind these navigations is actually related and based on the one page itself. Just a matter of object grouping, hiding and unhiding specific graphics that pop out, collapse, etc. So, for example, here you have the possibility to make some free choices. What would you like to see? And here comes to play some kind of the storytelling. Because if you have the end user, you would like to lead him through the specific analysis. And you start probably with the circuit breakdown. And actually, it's very simple in terms of the used visualizations, but the template and the layout itself makes the most impact if you if you are talking about the data visualizations. And I would like to highlight that the small details makes difference, because all the lines you can see here and all the backgrounds for the particular sections has applied different gradients. And the cool thing that we can achieve that is, of course, that you can make that reports and graphics in the PowerPoint, for example, or in a different programs, because you wouldn't be able to achieve the same result in Power BI. So here is, for example, a little bit light, a little bit darker. Here's a little bit lighter, and all these small things make difference in the long term. For example, you have the switch between two analyses. It's a timeline analysis and geospatial, which gives you information about the numbers of circuits in specific world locations. And the small thing it's applied here is the little bit pop out, a little bit more bold information when you hover over. And when it's clicked and you just go to the different section, to the different analysis, it's a small unichar icon, which gives you that information that you are actually on that side, that report page. Small things, but looks pretty much okay. Here's another element, for example, it's a small thing, of course, but you can have the possibility to add to your reports many kind of icons and graphics. And for example, here I used the globe icon just to make that impression that this visualization is probably correlated with some kind of localization, etc. So if you just click specific region of the specific continent, you just filter the data down.
So that's a donut chart with an icon in the middle.
Yeah, that's the donut chart and just a typical icon in the middle, just like you said.
All right, that's great. Wow.
Here we have the back button and different analysis, which is based on the constructors and drivers characteristics and performance. And here we have some similar functionalities, but one which is a little bit stand out and is as an addition to the other pages, the slicer that enables you to filter the specific information only to the specific number of records. And for example, here you can have possibility to select only, for example, 5 top constructors or drivers basing on a specific metrics. And here are just a column with points, which are dictated by which metric it will be filtered. But of course, it can be applied to have several metrics in dynamic ways. Here you can go to drivers. You have a very similar table matrix. Actually, when you hover over a specific driver, you have additional tooltip popping out with the name of the driver, with the specific years, with Grand Prix, and
so that's a combination of a matrix and a bar chart.
Yeah.
Column chart. Wow.
Exactly.
And there's no number of podiums, number of wins by date. Okay. Last 14 months. Okay.
Yeah, that's a various matrix put inside the one visualization.
Right.
I will back for a moment the circuit section, because we have the tooltips also. Here's a cool thing that we can apply in our reports, also the images. And it was the visualizations from the marketplace, actually. And it enables us to just insert some specific pieces.
What is that trace about? Is it a picture with a URL?
Yes, that's the picture. If you are asked about this particular tooltip, so please let me know if you are asking about the tooltip or not.
Yeah, the tooltip.
The tooltip. So the tooltip shows the name of the circuits, the fastest lap time, the descriptions, and the trace.
And the trace is a URL. The picture in the trace.
Yes.
All right.
The trace is actually the URL address, as you see. But I'm wondering why it's not.
It's just slow, perhaps.
Probably. Because
it's loading from the website.
Yes.
So the add info URL, what does it do? That column.
It's actually a hyperlink which gives you the possibility to navigate to the specific site with the description. It was actually available as a column information in the database. So it's just give you the possibility to go to the website.
And how did you get that icon there?
Icon about the URL address. I think it's the automatic icon which appears when you
use
some specific column as the URL information.
All right.
But it's not my choice. It's not that magical. There is such icon here.
All right. So we can go back.
Here we have the last page, which is actually the summary of the 2021 Formula One, something like a wrap-up page, which is focused more on the specific drivers and gives you the ability to just see the picture of the driver and for the car.
That's great. All right. So, wow. That's so amazing. So, this would also bring to us the end of part 2 of our interview. And I've been enjoying myself with Gustaw Dudek. There'll definitely be a third because of the things he's showing us. I want us to have time and enjoy and probably practice what he's taught us. So, Gustaw, thank you very much for the time for the part 2 of this. I'll be interviewing you for part 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we would meet same time. Kindly subscribe to my channel. You will be getting the notification when the third video is uploaded. Thank you very much, Gustaw, and see you next time.
See you next time.